and looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Tanya Witherspoon is an Associate Vice President, Workforce Development and Industry Engagement at Wichita State, where she has also co-founded and led several technology initiatives and been an instructor. Previously, she held technology leadership positions at several education service organizations and founded or co-founded 4 startups. Tanya has a master's degree, a graduate certificate, and an undergraduate degree, all in education with a technology emphasis, and all from Wichita State. Tom Cox is Vice President of State Government Affairs at Connected Nation, a nonprofit based in Bowling Green, Kentucky, that works to expand access, adoption, and use of high-speed internet and related technologies across the U.S. Tom has held previous positions in government affairs and in property management, and was a 2-term representative in the Kansas State Legislature. Tom has a master's degree in journalism and strategic communications and an undergraduate degree in political science and history, both from University of Kansas. Thanks for joining us today, you guys. Let's start out together with the newly created Kansas Office of Broadband Development. Your organizations have created a first in the nation carrier neutral internet exchange on the Wichita State campus. This first ever internet exchange, no other university has done it in the US. So it's interesting to put it on a university campus. Let's talk about first just what this means. An internet exchange is also called a carrier hotel sometimes. It's a place where telecommunications carriers and network service providers can connect their equipment. Why was it so important to have one of these in Kansas?
Yeah, so Kathleen, thanks for having us. Very excited to get to talk to everyone about this. So why is it important to have one in Kansas? Kansas does not have an internet exchange point in the entire state. All of our internet traffic backhauls outside of the state of Kansas. We're one of 14 states that don't have an internet exchange point at all, don't even have one.
So that means that if internet communication has to go from one big telecom company to another, it can't happen in the state of Kansas.
Yeah,
That is
so a quick explanation of that. An internet exchange point is where the internet physically interconnects and exchanges traffic. It's where Google Fiber talks to Comcast, talks to Cox Communication, but also where they talk to Netflix, Amazon, and every other website, and where they connect out to data centers from there. It's if you imagine the old telephone switchboards back from the early telephone days, the internet operates identically. It is literally giant switchboards, but it's all automated where fiber interconnects with each other. And we like to tell people the internet functions effectively like airport systems, right? An internet exchange point is your airport. So if you don't have an airport in your state, if the closest airport is 6 hours away, if you want to fly anywhere, you have to drive 6 hours just to get into an airport to fly to your destination. An internet exchange point being the airport, by bringing that to the state, we allow people to then from the state fly out to anywhere else in the world effectively.
So it makes stuff go faster, I would imagine, if you've got it in your state.
It makes the internet go faster because it's the only way to reduce internet latency is to bring the content closer to the end user. You can't make light go faster than the speed of light yet. And I don't know if you necessarily want to for internet, but so since you can't make it go faster, you have to bring cloud and content providers closer to reduce latency. But this also has a huge effect in reducing cost. I can't name it, but we're talking to a university in another state where they're, by building an internet exchange point on their campus, the university's cost savings alone are about $900,000 a year for what they purchase internet for, because they have to pay what's called transit fees to get out to connect to an internet exchange point to buy wholesale internet. So just by bringing it that much closer, they did the math and they're like, this saves us $900,000. Yeah, like all the other beneficial factors alone, we want to do it for that purpose. And then it's a resilience effort. I mean, states like Kansas are 100% reliant on other states, most of the state of Missouri, for its internet connectivity. If that facility in Kansas City, Missouri goes down, most of Kansas just goes dark and there's nothing we can do about it. States like Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Kentucky, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. These are all states that don't have internet exchange points. So they are 100% reliant on out of state networks that they have no regulatory authority over. They have limited, negotiating ability. I mean, a lot of states in the South are all reliant on Texas or Atlanta, in Georgia for internet connection. And
So
that's
if you're in Kansas right now, if you're a university or a startup, you're at a disadvantage just right out of the gate because of this internet issue. So Tanya, you tried to talk to some of the big players and get them to build one of these carrier hotels in Kansas. How'd that go for you?
Well, yeah, I've been trying to get this to happen for almost a decade, really. It's just it costs money, and it doesn't have a big return on value because it's going to decrease costs. It's also going to open up competition. Okay, because this means that more internet service providers actually have access to the internet exchange point and can deliver, directly. So
That's what net neutral means, that everybody can
right,
be
right. So the
housed in
net
the.
neutrality piece of this to locate it on a university campus is brilliant, and Connected Nation, came up with this. There are neutral exchange points across the nation. That's not new, but when a neutral party invests in building an internet exchange point, getting all of the connections made and all of that, it becomes a very valuable asset. And lots of times they then are taken over because, it's something that can be bought. Sometimes it's rezoned so that, a hostile takeover can happen, all kinds of things. So putting it on a public university's land that ensures it's neutral. We have a ground lease with Connected Nation as our partner for the state of Kansas's land to ensure that this stays neutral. And I want to make it really clear because we have a lot of universities on here. So we're not just doing this for our university, because universities have access to their research networks in their states, to internet too, to other types of transit besides commercial and internet. And so universities actually have a track that connects them a little bit speedier right away. But the companies that we serve and the industry that we work with don't use those research networks. They're not on all of those. So a good example, Wichita State University has an innovation campus where we have industry right on our campus. And one of our partners is Airbus's North American headquarters. They're right on our campus, and their corporate office is in Toulouse, France. Because there's no internet exchange point in the state of Kansas, Airbus has no opportunity to have a direct peering connection to their corporate office.
Wow.
Yeah, none in the entire state. They don't have it's not a decision of how much money they want to pay. They don't have the opportunity.
It's
Now,
kudos to you for getting them there anyway.
well, yeah. And just multiply that by all the industry that we have. They don't have the speediest connection, which of course AI and all of the technologies that we're trying to, move into, smart manufacturing, precision ag, precision healthcare, all of those things require low latency, right? Really, really speedy connections. But the peer-to-peer connection, is another, piece that's really important. So we're doing this not to benefit Wichita State University. We're doing this as an anchor economic requirement for our state. That's why we're connecting and making this happen. And this is part of a larger, investment by the state of Kansas that's part of the federal broadband money that was put out. So in addition to this internet exchange point, the state of Kansas is also investing in 800 miles of middle mile fiber that's going to connect this internet exchange point in Wichita, Kansas, to our closest internet exchange point, which is in Kansas City, Missouri.
So, Tom, you approached Wichita State
Hmm.
with this idea. Tell us about Connected Nation and what you do and why you approached them.
Yeah. So, and I'm actually a native Kansan. I live in Kansas. We're Kentucky based, but we're a remote company. And so I was working with Connected Nation, and we were focusing on Kansas. I had connections here. We were one of the 14 states without an internet exchange point. And so I had reached out to a couple of different universities and say, but Wichita was a top 5 site in the entire nation for us. But I reached out to a couple different universities I had relations with, and luckily Tanya was already aware of this concept. So when it got to her desk, she was like, yes, yes, yes. And I was like, perfect. You're one of our top 5 sites in the nation. You're already bought in. But what really started our conversation in the state was actually CanRen, our state education network. A gentleman named Court Buffington, who now works for NTIA, he had a long-standing relationship with my boss, Brent Legg. They've known each other in industry for years. And he said, Brent, the private equity firm that took over the internet exchange point in Kansas City, where we buy our wholesale internet, is jacking our rates up every single year. He's like, it is becoming astronomical. We need something in the state, in our state, that allows market competition. And so we said, perfect. Okay, let's see what's available. And the state luckily had a fund that was willing to give $5 million for a middle mile project, which was perfect for us. And we were able to successfully win that grant. But we approached Wichita State because we said, you're the center, you're the largest city in the state, you're central to the state. We're a very rectangular state, and our internet exchange points are Denver, which about 10% connect to in the state, and Kansas City, Missouri, so the two opposite ends. So anywhere middle to the state and most of the West has horrible latency, astronomical costs. But yeah, even a lot of education networks are able to negotiate really good rates for the universities. But even in ours, they're like, it keeps going up. And Tanya can attest, the state education network went down 2 different times this fall because somewhere in the hundreds and hundreds of miles, someone cut something. And they had to go figure out where it got cut, where it got connected. So there was a huge resiliency issue that they were running into. So we were just really fortunate that it was already on our identification list, that I was based here. So I said, let me run the traps, and that we met Tanya, who I knew who Tanya was from when I was a legislator, because even though Wichita wasn't my area, the Innovation Campus is legendary in our state. What she has done to build industry there is realistically should be the model nationwide. I mean, they employ over 9,000 of their students with jobs with these companies that then hire these students out. It is absolutely mind-blowing, the companies that are on the Innovation Campus. So it was a perfect pairing, honestly, and we were glad that this gets to be our first site.
Well, I would imagine, I know how that is. You think, oh, we should call the university. Who do you call? Like, who even understands this issue? So you kind of lucked out with Tanya, right?
We did, because we kind of realized, so when we started approaching this, and we should say, so when we partner with the university, we typically look for a donated ground lease, a long-term ground lease, or like a $1 or something that makes sense, within their terms. And in exchange, we give the university free cabinet space and free interconnection space within the facility. So they get a port on our internet switch, which is powered by DKIX, the largest internet exchange in the world. So they will, for the life of the facility, have free interconnection in the facility. So that's a huge benefit to the university. And we get the ground lease, which we can then utilize to seek grant funding, and it counts as matching funds for a grant, which makes this really economical to build. And then it cements that partnership for the life of the facility.
Connected Nation is a nonprofit, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And your goal is to do this kind of stuff around the country.
We have 125 sites around the nation that we've identified, and there's flexibility in those sites. We've been approached by a few universities that they were not on our list, but we did our due diligence. We said, actually, yeah, if you are a willing partner, you absolutely make sense for us to partner with and put that facility there. That would be great, because universities are the largest traffic users in their regions every time. So typically that will justify an internet exchange in itself. And right now, our model is essentially, if we go back to the airport analogy, it's all hub airports, right? Like in the internet exchange world, there are no regional carriers anymore. It's just hubs in major cities. And what we're trying to do is change the model to where we're building regional hubs scattered across the entire United States. But as these facilities grow, as we bring in the cloud and content providers, after a few years of establishing one, your market, whether you're a 60,000 person city or a 600,000 person city, yours will turn into a hub as well. because over 3 to 5 years after building the facility, there will be no functional difference than a facility in New York City, Kansas City, Atlanta, and your internet exchange. We're bringing all the same cloud and content providers, the same wholesale providers, the same ISPs into that facility. So we're essentially trying to create a model where scattered across the United States, no one should be more than, 100 miles from a hub location.
How long is this going to take you guys?
That just depends on funding and partnership opportunities. It takes anywhere from, once we acquire funding and have a site selected partnership, it takes about 8 to 12 months to build the facility and turn it on fully operational. Right now, our build time is about 12 months, but we are constantly refining that. And we think in our next generation, which, I mean, the next project we have, we think we can get that go live time to 8 months from pretty much contract signed to turn on the facility. And then, there's a handful of states we're pursuing grant opportunities, but then we're also looking at other funding sources. We're not going and selling our company to private equity. That's a huge part of, so we have to find other funding sources. But there is heavy, heavy interest from the hyperscalers right now in what we're doing, because they are all saying, we need you to be able to essentially deploy our next generation of technology, whether it's AI, or just interconnection, the streaming services. So there is potential that they may actually produce a fund for us to draw on. That's not an equity-based fund, but they're essentially saying, this is a write-off for us and we need this.
Just to be clear, there's so much talk about data centers. What's the difference between this and a data center?
It's the power production and the storage and compute. We don't do storage and compute. We only do interconnection. Data centers and AI facilities will hive off of what we're doing. In fact, we have companies, and Tanya can speak to this, reaching out to Wichita State, reaching out to the state of Kansas saying, hey, we read about this. We're interested in building a data center in your area. When will the facility go live?
Yeah, Tanya, tell us about that. Like, what kind of reaction you've got to this?
Oh, tons and tons of calls from, hyperscalers and data center, folks, but also we have new companies that are now calling and want to locate in Kansas because they know that they will have access to, this facility. This is opening up new opportunities for us to partner with companies. Of course, I'm working with our regional economic groups, our chambers, and our state, because that's why we did this. That's what I wanted to be really clear. We did not do this to make WSU's internet, faster. That will happen and we'll get some benefit, but we did this with our state to create an economic platform. And I have a slide I want to paint this picture. Let me share it really quick and see if this will help a little bit. So
And Tanya, will you pull that up real quick? I do have to run in about 2 minutes. I apologize. I'm actually testifying in the Kansas legislature this afternoon, or actually not this afternoon, sorry, in 5 minutes. I'm actually borrowing a friend of mine who's a state senator's office in the meantime, so I can run to the committee room. So I will in about 2 minutes have to hop off, and I apologize, but please distribute my contact information. If anyone on this call wants to talk more, I would love to get on a Zoom. I have a whole slide deck. We can talk about it.
Thanks, Tom. I do want to say after this program, we will distribute a list to everyone who's here with everyone's contact information. So everyone will be able to get a hold of you.
Thank you.
Is good.
And
Thanks,
Tanya,
Tom.
we have like a minute, but
Yeah, so I just wanted this slide we can distribute too, but so this green and white picture of map, every one of these white states has no internet exchange point in it at all. None. Okay. The density in some of the states you can see, California, but as a nation, this should concern you because our internet resiliency is not good. Right? So to the right, this red, white, and blue map, this is Connected Nations plan. This is, to fill out all of the tier 2 and tier 3 cities in the nation, to really, really help the resiliency, the security, and everything that we want to do with compute from here requires this infrastructure. And I think that it's not being attended to at the level that we all need to
And
think
I
about.
want to say one more thing, Tanya. I just want to give you a chance, a little shout out. Wichita State ranks what in research in the country? Um,
We rank number one. Goodbye, Tom. Thank you.
Thank
We,
you.
we rank number one in the nation for aerospace research and number two in the nation for engineering research.
And the list came out last fall for business partnerships, for business sponsored research. You are in the top 10, which,
Yes.
you know, what are in the overall numbers, you're probably 60th, 70th, something like that, but number
Right.
in the top 10 for business sponsored
Yeah.
research. And this is one of the reasons why, because you keep pushing this kind of thing and making companies want to come there. So thank you so much for sharing this. And Tanya will be moderating a networking session, and you'll get her contact info. So we're moving on. Thank you,